name is Evgeny Rusakov, and you're watching TVP World, interview from Vilnius. On the 15th of August, US President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin met in Alaska to discuss ways to end the Russian-Ukrainian war. It would not be an exaggeration to say that many people awaited this meeting with great anxiety. To discuss the results of this meeting, we are joined today by the American Studies expert, Alexandra Filippenko. Alexandra, glad to see you back in our studio.
Evgeny, thank you for having me.
And when it comes to discussing US politics, you are actually our magic stick.
Thank you so much.
So, okay, back to business. What's your overall take on what happened on the 15th of August in Alaska?
I think there are so many questions and we don't have any answers. So the main feeling and the main outcome is confusion. Confusion for anyone who is following Russian-American relations, for anyone who is following President Trump, and confusion, I must stress, even for conservative media in the United States. For example, the journalist of Fox News channel, the conservative media supporting Donald Trump, who was there at that fake press conference or anti-press conference, as I call it.
Which did not happen. Yeah.
Which did not happen. Because at the same way, for example, Caroline Leavitt and Dmitry Peskov, the spokespeople of Trump and Putin, could have just came out and read that text. So it was not a press conference. That anti-press conference, the journalist of Fox News was so confused that she said after that meeting that President Trump actually looks like he looked weak. For a conservative media to say that President Trump looked weak, that's rich. So I must say that the main word is confusion. We really do not know what came out of it, and there are so many different versions of what really happened that confusion is my word of not only this day, but of the week, I would say.
Okay, did you have any expectations regarding this specific meeting?
I must say that my expectations were either things would go really bad or really good, but things, thank God, the only good thing that we can say that it didn't go as bad as some people expected, because of course we understand with President Trump being the way he is, he could have just come out and say that I think that Russia should get these and these territories. He didn't say anything like it. He was quite low-key. He didn't give out anything. So my worst case scenario didn't work, and I'm happy about it. But also, we didn't see any sanctions. Let's remind ourselves that on the way to Alaska, during his talk with journalists, President Trump repeated that there would be severe sanctions and severe consequences for Russia. Nothing happened.
None of that. Okay, from what I've read, they say that, well, literally Trump failed those talks. What's your take on this?
I would use the quote from John Bolton, the John Bolton National Security Advisor to President Trump, conservative Republican. He worked with President Trump during his first administration, and he said that Putin clearly won, but President Trump didn't lose.
Okay,
that was his take.
That's interesting.
And Putin won. Putin won being on the red carpet. Putin got what he wanted, those photographs. Shaking hands, being so friendly, sitting together in the car. But at the same time, we see that President Trump didn't lose, as John Bolton puts it, because Trump also didn't give out anything, didn't give anything to Putin. And also, we all know that there was supposed to be a lunch, an extra 5 hours in Alaska with wonderful dishes and drinking and eating and walking around Alaska.
Again, none of that.
None of that happened. So I wouldn't say that Putin is a clear winner. He also didn't get everything he wanted, and I suppose that's my take, that he really wanted to discuss the Arctic Circle and the Arctic region, and that is why Alaska was the point where he was happy to go to. But he didn't get to that, most probably, because as President Trump has said during that fake or anti-press conference, there were some points that they didn't agree on, the biggest ones. So I think that is why we cannot say that President Trump is a loser. He didn't fail it. He didn't win also, but he didn't lose.
But he must have stood his position.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. But in general, what's your take on Trump's communication style?
This is also one of the most important things, I believe. As we all know, and we all know it from books written by those people who worked with President Trump during his first administration, and even those who worked with businessman Trump before he became president. He always relies on personal connection. He always relies on personal diplomacy. He always believed that sitting down like this, like we are sitting right now with you, is way more important than 10 hours of talking via Zoom or Skype or any other way. So he finally got to talk to Putin. And he got to see that, no, this personal diplomacy doesn't work with Putin because he didn't get anything out of it. This tells me all we need to know, that it didn't go how he planned, although it is very important that everyone, including the European powers, said, no, you shouldn't talk to Putin. No, please don't do it, don't do it. But in the end, he got to, and he saw that his personal diplomacy doesn't work.
That's interesting. That's an interesting point. Okay, Alaska. Many talks have been about the chosen place for this meeting. Alaska, some Kremlin's propaganda claimed about some historical links and all that stuff. What's your take?
We will know the truth only in 30, 40 years in the books of current
Will Russia get back Alaska?
Oh, no way. I believe that Alaska was chosen, and maybe it was chosen by the Russian side or proposed by the Russian side. Do you remember how we discussed Greenland? We started President Trump's term with talking about, will Greenland be the 52nd state, because Canada would be the 51st. So what would happen with Greenland? Greenland, it was all about the Arctic Circle. It was all about the Nordic way, Nordic trade way by China and Russia. China and Russia has been working on it since 2018. Since 2018, they were working on, let's say, being more present at the Arctic Circle, way more present, because for China, it would cut China's way of China's goods from China to Europe in twice. So right now they need like 50 days for their goods to get to Europe. They would need like 20 days if they go through Russia and through the Arctic Circle. So Arctic is very important for Putin and very important for Trump, as we saw at the beginning of his term. So I think Putin really wanted to talk about the Arctic Circle and how will they divide it together, or how will they divide it with Xi Jinping. So that's my take on Alaska and why Alaska. For Putin, I think it's not about history, although he loves to talk about it, especially fake history and all that. But I think that it's about business. It's about really...
Trump is all about business.
Exactly. And Putin was sure that he would interest Trump in that. Let's divide all that. Europe, Iceland, or Denmark. No. They won't, or Norway. No, let's push them away and let's divide it between ourselves, or maybe I will divide it with China. So I think that Putin wanted to talk about it. That's why he brought his business people with him.
Exactly.
But I believe that he didn't get to that because they didn't have that lunch.
Okay, how about that strange press conference where they refused to answer any of journalists' questions?
Of course, Putin is so afraid of talking to journalists.
You think so?
I'm sure. One of the journalists screamed out a question to Putin, when will you stop killing civilians? While
he pretended like he didn't hear anything.
He heard it. He's,
yes, he did.
I don't hear you. I don't hear you. So they wanted to avoid that. American journalists would not take anything back, and they would really ask tough questions, unlike Russian journalists who were there, of course. But Putin wanted to avoid that, and I think that Trump followed suit, and he followed Putin in that, and he respected Putin's unwillingness to talk to American journalists. And American journalists were shocked that it was cut that short in that anti or fake press conference.
Okay, again, another question. We didn't see any representatives of Ukraine and Europe during this meeting. That was a very, very significant meeting, and we still didn't see them. So what's your take on this?
Of course, Putin, again, wants to drag Trump into his 19th century thinking. Yes, into his web, exactly. Into the web of those thinking of great powers deciding for others. Let's decide for Ukraine and for Europe and for everyone else. But at the same time, Trump made sure that he talked to European leaders beforehand. He talked to them right after that. So it feels, to me, it didn't feel like he was dividing anything with Putin. It felt like he was the representative of that collective West. And Trump really wants to end this soon because he really wants to trade. He really wants to take care of the Asia-Pacific region and of the American continent. He really wants to move fast. And he believes that he can move fast. With that personal diplomacy that he saw didn't work, so now he needs Europeans and he needs the European Union.
Okay, again, since you've mentioned Western politicians, I cannot leave without mentioning the reaction to this meeting, the Western politicians' reaction, and the global media reaction to this meeting. And they did not, well, have much enthusiasm about this meeting. So is there anything, after all, is there anything to be happy about? And what's your take on their reaction in general?
Well, this reaction was heard and seen in the United States, and that's very important. And I must say that a big work is being done also by that conservative media, by Fox News, that interview many of the European leaders, and President Trump watches Fox News and he sees all that. So they are making this very difficult work of, I'm sorry it sounds bad, but educating President Trump on what Putin is, on what history, European history is. It's a very tough job, but they're doing it step by step, and I believe that this might have effect on President Trump. And for him, again, to see that, yes, he put out the red carpet, and he didn't get anything in return, just like the Europeans told him. So maybe we should listen to them.
You got a cynical smile, I'd say.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Very cynical and very looking down on everything and everyone.
Even though he's shorter.
Yes, no, he's still looking down. So I think it was important even for Trump to realize certain things. And it is great that the European leaders and the European Union is very patient and very calm about it. No one is making a fuss out of it. Of course, media is, but I mean, the leaders are very calm, very reserved, and I believe that they would get to President Trump with their idea, their view on what happened in Alaska.
Do you think Donald Trump could quit these negotiations?
This is a way he's trying to. He really wants to. And because, everything depends...
Is he preparing like, a fire exit for him?
Yes, in a way, but it would be very difficult for him for one reason, and that reason is the American people. Because the American people have heard and known about Ukraine for 3 years during the Biden administration, and they've heard about it a lot. And just before the Alaska meeting, and that's also not a coincidence, Pew Research Center, one of the biggest sociology centers of the United States, put out their poll and the results of their poll, where we can see that 85% of Americans, not just Democrats, Republicans and Democrats, 85% of Americans do not trust Putin and do not believe that Putin has world peace on his mind. 50% of Americans believe that Russia is an enemy of the United States, not a counterpart, not the opponent, the enemy of the United States. Those are powerful numbers, and it's not just Democrats, it's Republicans and Democrats. And also, one thing that's connected to the American people, President Trump, during his election campaign, he said many things about make America great again. And we can discuss with you, what did he mean? I would have my view, you would have your view, someone else would have their own view. But war, ending the war, you either have the war or you don't. Either they're shooting people or they don't. So it's very clear and simple. Make America great again, we can discuss what it means. But no war, ending the war, it's really clear. And that's what he promised to the American people. So getting out of that promise, he's trying to, he really wants to. That's a fire exit, that's a perfect analogy. But I don't believe that he can afford it with his not too high ratings. His ratings are not that good right now.
Nothing more to add, I guess. Alexandra, thank you for joining us today, and I really hope to see you some other time here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And I would like to remind our viewers that our guest for today was an American studies expert, Alexandra Filippenko. You're watching TVP World. Stay with us.